How's it rockin', Dween Nation? You're listening to the Dween Sports Podcast. We're about to get underway. But before you give us a listen, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, and share. We are posting weekly sports content, and we want to build up the brand that is Dween Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy.
Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Paez, alongside Genoa Agudelo. This episode is Bold Predictions, Week 15. This is our last episode of the week before Week 15 all happens, and then we got to discuss it next week. And hopefully, by that time on Monday, that you have won your fantasy week and you're on to the next round of the fantasy playoffs. And hopefully, this episode and all of our episodes that we've recorded this week can help you win your fantasy matchups through that. But before we dive into our bold predictions for Week 15, how you doing, Genoa?
Yo, Dween Nation. How's it going out there, guys? Hey, it's fantasy playoffs week, and it's here. It's what it all comes down to. You got to get 3 straight victories to win you guys' championships. And we got some bold predictions there that can help you kind of set a frame and then kind of figure out what it is to figure out going into this week. You know, Justin and I, we haven't told you guys this, but we have a vault with the script. Only Justin and I know the script. We don't want to spoil it for you guys all the way, but we're gonna throw a little nuggets there for you guys. We want to help you guys in Dween Nation. We're college students there. We got some professors that don't really help you out all the way. They don't want to give you all the answers, but I think here at Dween Sports we'll give you some answers there. We're not gonna make it too hard for the test, so don't worry. And so I'll let Justin go ahead and start off his bold prediction there. Remember, we're getting just a little spicy, not too spicy. It's cold outside, so we're not going to start off getting too spicy. But I'll let Justin go ahead and start things off.
Well, my first take is, at face value, like, that's not very spicy. But I'm talking about Trey McBride, and he will get a receiving touchdown this week. It's going to happen. And you're like, oh, a touchdown. I mean, people get that every week. That's not that big. Poor Trey McBride has not had a receiving touchdown this season. That is 14 weeks, or I guess 13 games for the Cardinals with no receiving touchdowns. He had 1 touchdown that he was on top of a fumble in the end zone, counted for 6, and he had 1 rushing touchdown, but no receiving touchdowns. And regardless, only 2 touchdowns on the year is very low, not what we expect from a top tight end. But this game against the Patriots at home, he was very close to scoring a touchdown last week. I think he finally gets in the end zone this week. And Kyler Murray, just come on, you got to find him. I know you're finding him throughout the field, all the way throughout the field. And Trey McBride's been a top 3 tight end all season. This is his tight end 1 week because he finally gets to score. I mean, he gets the targets every week. It's just not the end zone. And he's still a top 3 guy, so I expect a big week. He finally gets in the end zone, and we're happy.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, Justin. I mean, he has a matchup against the Patriots, probably one of the worst defenses and you can pass all over them. I mean, and I like it a lot. This is Kyler's go-to guy. I mean, he's had a ton of receptions the past couple weeks. I think he's had almost like 30 receptions in like the last 3 weeks, which is pretty good there. He's a guy that Kyler's looking forward to, and he's going to look for him in the red zone there. As a lot of attention is going to be going to Marvin and even Mike Wilson. Mike Wilson finally scored last week, and I was very happy about that. And so, Trey McBride, I like it. He'll score this weekend. For me, I'm going to go with a little bit of a spicier take. Well, let's start things spicy. And let's go with the Bills upsetting Detroit, and it could be a blowout.
Wow. Blowout.
Just saying. And I want to make my case here, right? Detroit is due for a loss. Buffalo is due for a road win against a pretty good team. Remember, they lost to Houston on the road. They got dominated on Sunday Night Football to Derrick Henry and the Ravens. And then last week, they lost to Puka Nacua, Matt Stafford, and these Rams that have been kind of hot as of late. And you know what? It's time for the Bills to get kind of a statement win. It's time for Josh Allen to seal the deal and turn in this envelope, ready to go. It's Christmas. You guys are turning in your packages and whatnot. It's time for Josh Allen to deliver this Christmas gift and to finally break through and to have, part 1 of his road to winning the Super Bowl. And it's to win the MVP, right? He has been, a counter to Patrick Mahomes, who's won an MVP. He's been a counter to Lamar Jackson, who has won an MVP. It's his time. He is, the top 3 quarterbacks in the AFC, Lamar, MVP, Patrick Mahomes MVP. It's time for Josh Allen and this team to get over the hump, and it starts with this week now. We're a month away, maybe less than a month away from the playoffs. It's time for Buffalo to make a statement win. What better way to go to Detroit, the hottest team in the league, the best team in the league, and to show a statement? Give me the Bills, like we mentioned in the rapid picks, to win. They're going to upset them, but potentially in a blowout.
Yeah, that the blowout makes it obviously very spicy. The Lions are favored by 2.5 at home. I just don't think that this Lions team can be blown out. I don't know if they have the capabilities to do so, especially at home. Maybe if it was in Orchard Park and in the weather, maybe Detroit doesn't travel well at home. That's a very tough ask. So I might be against this take, but that's why it's spicy. But yeah, I mean, I expect a good game from Josh Allen. I expect good games though from the Detroit Lions players. Gibbs, Monty, Amon-Ra, and Laporta, and maybe even Goff can have a pretty solid game. So yeah, that's gonna be tough. But what helps Buffalo's case is I believe Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid are back in the lineup, even though they scored 42 without them both. But that helps to have your two more pass catchers that are very capable. Moving to my next take, I have that the Dolphins and the Texans will be the highest scoring game of the week. And that in doing so, I think good games from Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Tua Tagovailoa, Jonnu Smith, and then on the Houston side, get C.J. Stroud in your lineup, which you haven't really been able to do this year. Joe Mixon, Nico Collins. I think Schultz gets in the end zone this week, and I even think Tank Dell gets 6+ catches. So I think a lot of people, everybody in this game is going to be a little bit happy. It's indoors. The Texans, the Dolphins' defensive struggles is the run game. That's Joe Mixon. The Texans' defensive struggles is the pass game. That's Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle. So I think that this is kind of a strength versus strength, weakness, or strength versus weakness on both sides. A lot of points are going to be scored, and a lot of people who have players in that game are going to be happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to see the Texans being a high-scoring team as of late there. CJ has struggled, and, it hurts me to see this, but a lot of people are considering CJ Stroud as one of the biggest busts at the quarterback position this year in fantasy,
Yeah.
which hurts my dear heart because, you guys out there in Dewey Nation know how much I love my beloved Houston Texans, biggest fan ever. And, it's concerning to see what we can do on offense. Hopefully we do score a ton of points. If we do, I believe we win. But it's on the Dolphins side though. I can see it happening. I like Jalen Waddle this week. I like Tyreek Hill for sure. And so it could be a pretty high scoring matchup depending on CJ and this Texans offensive line. So pretty decent take there for me. I'm gonna go with the guy who's been hot all year. But I think he gets shut down this week, and I'm talking about Jamar Chase there.
Wow.
And so I think that this is somewhat of a T. Higgins game. A couple years ago, I remember T. Higgins had a big game against the Titans, and these two teams have had a couple back and forths there in the playoffs. And T. Higgins has kind of been the better receiver in those games. And I think that Jamar Chase, obviously I think Snead is out for the year, Ladarius Snead. But I do think that this Titans secondary is a little sneaky there. Hasn't been talked about. Obviously, the record is the reason why, and who they have at quarterback essentially, and it's Tennessee. But I think that maybe this is a game that maybe Chase Brown has a pretty decent game. Maybe Joe Burrow throws a couple touchdowns to somebody else, and Jamar Chase had a fire, an unbelievable, fantastic game on Monday Night Football. And I think that he kind of takes a step back just this week. The Bengals still win, right? But I think that it's because Yoshivas scores. Maybe we get a little Gesicki there. Maybe a Tanner Hudson, T. Higgins. Maybe a Joe Burrow sneak. Obviously, they probably don't want to run Joe Burrow there. But I think that Jamar Chase, he gets shut down this week. Maybe about 3 to 4 catches, 40, no more than 50 yards, though.
That is pretty darn spicy. I mean, Jamar has been, I guess, by far the best wide receiver in the league. Obviously had the 40 burger last week against the Cowboys. I'm trying to look at his low score in the year. It was week 2 against the Chiefs. He had 4 for 35. So you could see maybe something similar in that is what you're saying. I find it tough to get behind. I could see the ancillary pieces getting touches. I mean, T. Higgins had a low game last week. I think Burrow knows that, hey, like he even talked about it, like we want him to stay, like we value him. He had a low game, but hey, against the Cowboys. But this week, maybe this is his time. I think an interesting thing nobody's talking about, this is you could argue a revenge game, but on the Titans side, they might be angry because the head coach of the Titans was on the Bengals last year as their offensive coordinator and for many years before that. So Brian Callahan knows this offense that he's going up against with T and Jamar and Joe Burrow and that whole company. So I think, obviously, I don't think a big 40-point game, maybe not even a 20-point game. He should get double digits, but that'd be something interesting to see in this game that to me is going very under the radar in Tennessee. But yeah, okay, that's pretty dang spicy. You're beating me in the spice levels today, for sure. But talking to my spiciest take is still talking about this game and how we were just talking about how the Titans aren't talked about so much because of their awful quarterback. Well, I'm going to talk about their awful quarterback in this bold prediction, and I think against this Bengals defense, he throws for over 300 and 3 touchdowns. A lot of people were thinking maybe last week was Will Levis's week, but he was bad against the Jaguars. This week, though, against the Bengals, it's a tough thing to get behind, especially if you need a fantasy playoff win. You want to rely on Will Levis? Probably not, but he's got the matchup, and I think he's in danger of just being benched too to end the season because he's been awful. But the matchup is great. Brian Callahan's revenge game against his former team. Will Levis has a monster game. Nick Westbrook-Akine gets back in the touchdown, gets back in the end zone. Ridley has a great game. Pollard gets a touchdown as well, and I expect big Will Levis points.
Yeah, Justin, I mean, this Bengals defense has been awful. I mean, they had to rely on a block punt that they were able to recover last week on Monday night against the Cowboys, which kind of helped them out to leading that victory. But, it's the Cowboys on their second string quarterback, and they barely won. Cooper Rush was still able to, throw for 2 touchdowns, and Rico Dowdle looked nice. And so this defense has been the reason why Joe Burrow won't win MVP, which you can make the argument that he does deserve MVP, right? I mean, they've given up unbelievable amount of points, yards, whatever it is, touchdowns. And, Will Levis, like I talked about a couple weeks ago, I figured that, I mentioned that this Tennessee offense is an offense that you can rely on the playoffs. And thankfully last week wasn't the beginning of the playoffs. You have this week where I think Tony Pollard has a, bounce back game. I think that Will Levis can get a touchdown to, I like Calvin Ridley a lot this week, and as well as Nick Westbrook-Akine. And I love Will Levis to go over 300 yards. Brian Callahan, I believe? It was a former coordinator there, and he's going to want to really stick it to the team that, he sees that they're doing well without him offensively. So he's going to let them know, who was, the guy that was able to be behind their, AFC championship runs and what made Joe Burrow a dominant and what led this Bengals team to become a team that, obviously they've been disappointing this year, but, Brian Callahan wants to end this, these past couple weeks with the victory there. And so I like that take a lot, Justin. I would say that Will Levis is a guy that you can definitely start in daily fantasy leagues there. Maybe a little Will Levis there, quarterback. That way you can throw in your Tyreek Hills, your Amon-Ra St. Brown that's going to have a phenomenal matchup against the Bengals. Maybe you want to throw in your Trey McBrides there. Maybe have enough for your Saquon Barkley's there. So Will Levis is a great bargain there. And hey, maybe, I did mention that Jamar won't have a great game, but you can get Will Levis there and have a stack with, Tyreek Hill and Jamar and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, what a crazy lineup that would be in your daily fantasy lineups there in DraftKings and FanDuel. So definitely like that there. For me, my final take of the week, we're getting super spiciest. I don't know if this is a spiciest take, but Aaron Rodgers will finish the quarterback 1 of fantasy, scoring 40 fantasy points there and having fantasy managers regretting not starting him there. Last week, he was able to go over 100 or 300 yards. And I like Garrett Wilson this week. I like Devontae Adams this week. I even like Tyler Conklin as a absolute deep sleeper there. And you know what, Justin? I feel like with this Packers, offense, we're not sure if Breece Hall, is going to play. He is questionable at the moment. And I just think that Aaron Rodgers is going to air it out. They have nothing to lose. They're not making the playoffs. The Jags are obviously abysmal there. They don't have Trevor Lawrence now. This defense can make a good amount of stops there with Mac Jones, who isn't impressive there. He isn't like a Cooper Rush who steps in and isn't phenomenal. He isn't Andy Dalton week 3 going into Vegas and having a phenomenal game. He's okay, he's all right. It's Mac Jones. He's whatever. I'll throw it. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to have a phenomenal game. I think that he's going to just take advantage of this matchup there. Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, start them all, and give me 380 to 400 yards for Mr. Old Man Rodgers and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I like this. I think Rodgers. I'm looking at their schedule here. They play Jacksonville this week. Then they got to play the Rams, Bills, and Dolphins, which I don't see victories in sight for them in those games. So you could think this could possibly be Aaron Rodgers' last win of his entire career. I think he's going to pour a lot into this game. I know it's on the road, but we saw Garrett Wilson and Adams kind of start cooking again after being, they've been falling off, obviously. But with Breece Hall probably not playing, I don't think they rely heavily on the running game. And Rodgers, they just lost a close game in overtime against the Dolphins last week. I think this is his game. I really like that there. Quarterback 1, obviously, that's why it's a bold prediction. But I think if he's on your waiver wire, if he's in your possible DFS lineup, play him. I think he's going to do very well. But yeah, I like that there. Dewey Nation, those are our bold predictions for Week 15 of the NFL season. Good luck to you all in your matchups this week. Hopefully you get to move on to the next round to get closer to that money, get closer to that trophy, that belt, that ring, whatever. Those bragging rights, whatever you want. But yes, good luck. If you have any particular questions, we are here for you. We will answer them. Message us anywhere you can possibly think of. We will be there. But thank you guys for listening. And Genoa, send us out.
Yo, Dewey Nation. Yes, this was our bold predictions of the week. Let us know if you have any spiciest takes. Just absolute crazy takes. If it's like, Jared Goff's going to throw for 650 yards or Josh Allen will have 10 pounds. Just go ahead and don't be afraid. We want to hear you guys' takes. It is the fantasy playoffs, so a lot of these teams there, Justin, we won't be seeing this time next month. And so these are kind of the last times we'll be able to see these fantastic players, like a Jamar Chase or maybe like a Tony Pollard, and have been having pretty good seasons. So, let us know. Let us know some spiciest takes there. We want to hear it. We want to hear it. Get hot. Don't feel afraid. Don't hesitate to go hot right off the bat there. So thank you guys for watching, Dewey Nation. We love you guys. And as always, peace.